Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the newest comic duo, Davis, a dabbler in many disciplines with a voice that can soothe and persuade. Mike, a fanatical specialist with a mouth like a bullhorn, fueled by strong opinions and a compulsion to share them, with microphones and comics in hand. They are Jacks of Trades.
Hello everyone and welcome to Jacks of Trades. I'm Mike.
And I'm Davis.
On Jacks of Trades, we read, discuss, and review trade paperbacks and graphic novels from major and indie comic publishers. We're not experts by any means. We just love hanging out and talking about comics. We're here with Greg from In-Depth Media.
Hey fam.
And if you're listening to this episode, one of us is way too busy to deal with their responsibilities.
Yep, that's right. This is what we would call a vault episode.
Yeah.
It's like the Disney vault, except it's not loved by millions, where they have to put a false economy on it to get people to buy it.
Yeah, you really don't care. But you expect something to come out, and you expect to hear us spew into these microphones. So that's what we've decided to do today.
Yes, completely.
So for today's episode, Davis suggested this one.
Yes.
As he owns this particular trade. Mm-hmm. The book is Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
Yes, yes. So, this particular graphic novel of mine really speaks to me. As said in earlier ones, I had early bouts within comics and whatnot. Well, I've been knowing / reading Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, and it's in its 7-issue run that it was since I was in about 7th, 8th grade. I actually had an individual issue of number 6, I believe, at one point in time. I don't know what happened to it, but it's a phenomenal. Looking back on it, it was a very good, fun comic.
Nice little nostalgic.
Yeah, exactly. Little nostalgia. Like prior to me reading this one, I hadn't read it in about a decade. So it's great. And little bit of information about this comic. The creator of this is Jonan Vasquez, who is the creator of Invader Zim. So you'll see a lot of the same art style throughout this whole thing. The very squared edged lines of faces and everything. The legs almost get down to a pencil thin, and the arms very pencil thin, very gangly looking on everyone, and ginormous eyes.
Yeah.
Ginormous eyes.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Zim, then you'll recognize a lot of the art style in this comic. First, I want to do a little profanity disclaimer. We're not against cursing by any means. You've heard it, but we're not really here to dirty up your ears with our potty language.
Right. We're not a Tarantino movie.
Due to the source material, we're gonna have to say some bad words.
Yes. Considering the fact that one of the main characters in this, he is actually another character, the character named Doughboy. His name is Mr. Fuck.
Yeah, so just in...
or Mr. F, if you want to...
Just in talking about him, we're going to have to curse. So yes. It's going to be a little heavier than normal, but it's not going to be for no reason. It's to do with the story. Mm-hmm. So first thing, I want to get off on a little bit of some facts about the book. The publisher is Slave Labor Graphics, and the year was came out between August 95 and January 97. It was a limited run series of 7 issues. As Davis said, creator Jonan Vasquez. Now the origin, it started out as a comic strip. He started doing it when he was in high school, just as a personal entertainment thing. And then he slowly got it into different zines because it was the 90s and that was what was a thing at the time.
I miss zines.
And slowly, I never got into the zine scene.
No zine scene?
No, I did not.
No clean zine scene?
No.
Okay.
I did get into the dirty zine scene.
Those are the ones you can get in the the grocery stores.
You're going with the black plastic? Those are nice. Mm-hmm. It started as a comic book, a comic strip, and then eventually it was picked up by Slave Labor to do a limited series. Now it also started out as a personal outlet for him, but he has later in interviews distanced himself from that. Mm-hmm. It kind of was his quote unquote revenge fantasy situation, as clearly he was not the most popular kid in school. So it was a way of him kind of getting out those emotions in a healthy, non-outward fashion.
Right. And we will delve in this later, but it's very, it's all done in black and white. Yeah. There's no color at all. And it's very, for lack of a better term, graphic.
Well, to be fair, he
graphic.
has been quoted as describing the production process as a mess. Later, after the fact, he kind of wished that he had planned it better. But he kind of just threw together some of this stuff. So it gives it a little bit of a charm in how haphazard it is. But you definitely can notice that not everything about it was planned meticulously. And like Davis said, he also went on to create Invader Zim, which was I'd say an important cartoon for me as a kid. I was very, very influenced by it. I know Greg and me have quoted it before. It was an early formative point of our friendship of just finding things we liked when you meet somebody in a giant high school. You're like, oh, well, he likes two things I like, so we're friends now.
It also has it was a huge part of goth culture, too.
Oh, yeah, it definitely was.
A huge thing in goth culture, too.
Yeah.
We've seen that a ton.
And that's something you're going to see about the book is that the book is a big commentary on goth culture.
I actually have this as Johnny, my show notes, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, a.k.a. Hot Topic Rebirth. Because, whenever I first got into this comic, I remember specifically they had multiple black with white screen print t-shirts at Hot Topic of his t-shirt and one with him on the front of it. And then another character named Squee, who we'll get into later, who had a spin-off of this one and everything.
Little known fact before we get started, one person in this room has received employment paychecks from Hot Topic.
That would be me.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Davis worked at Hot Topic.
Yeah, on and off for about 3 years or so, going from seasonal sales associate to...
Lots of great gauge discounts.
Sir, gauge is a unit of measurement. They're called plugs or tunnels or tapers.
I stand corrected. I had them and I stand corrected.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's what it is. But yeah, t-shirt discounts too. It was a good time.
Nice.
Yeah, I still miss this one Mars Volta t-shirt that I got. It was a 3/4 length baseball shirt.
Oh, the Henley?
Oh yeah, it was a wonderful Henley. Absolutely great.
Lovely.
Red with black sleeves. Oh, absolutely wonderful.
Okay, so anyway, let's get into the book itself. This is a paperback. The front cover, very, very kind of simple. Looks to be paint on a canvas.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's a form of acrylic on canvas, the way the paint kind of clumps and fades at times on it. But it just says in afterthought printed on top, JTHM.
For Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
Director's cut underneath it. And then a big Z with a question mark with a box around it.
Yeah, that was kind of Jonan's, I guess, logo, for lack of a better term. He suffered from insomnia for most of his life. So it became a recurring symbol in his comics to question sleep, because it was not something that he was able to experience very often in a restful format. So like David said, it's got simple color on the inside. There's no color whatsoever. It's just done in black and white.
A lot of silhouettes at times.
Now I'm going to say there's no wow factor to the art. The cover's not going to grab you, off the shelf, but it gets the job done for what it needs to be. It's Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. It's not, pow, Avengers, we need to have Iron Man flying while Captain America flexes, and,
and there's a rainbow in the
background.
Spider-Woman
looks all busty in the background. No, it's just, if you're buying this book, you know what's in it already. You're not going to grab it for the cover art. So first we're going to start with a story called Traumatize Thy Neighbor. Now, the book is kind of interesting because it's a series of short stories, and when I was first reading it, I kind of didn't recognize there was an arc going on, an overall story in the background, until I got about end of issue 2, beginning issue 3 of it, where I started realizing that some of these short stories started interacting with each other. So we're not going to touch on every story in the book because there's a lot of small little episodes, but we're going to touch on the ones that really kind of carry the plot through.
Yes, and there's actually a supplemental material at the end of each issue of Happy Noodle Boy.
Yeah, this is a comic that Johnny, the Homicidal Maniac, draws for his own personal entertainment.
Right. And the entertainment of homeless people.
Yeah,
he apparently staples them to homeless people.
To be honest, I didn't really get much out of the Noodle Boy parts. I don't think it added anything to the story. It doesn't take away. It's interesting. It's a cool little aside, but it was not necessary to tell the arc of the story. So we're not really going to touch on those.
Right.
Just so you're aware.
Right. So
the part we're starting with is Traumatize Thy Neighbor. And we meet the first character who's not Johnny.
Nope.
It's a little boy named Squee.
Squee!
So we're gonna find his name's not actually Squee. His name's Todd.
Right.
But when he first encounters Johnny, the only thing he can say is a little squee noise because he's nervous. So Johnny has latched on that his name. So Squee and his stuffed teddy bear, I believe it's some kind of stuffed
It is
creature,
a stuffed teddy bear.
is named Shmee. And they hear a noise, and they're gonna go look to their mom and dad for comfort. Here are the quotes from the mom and dad. So Squee goes to his mom, and mom says, "Honey, mom's ignoring you." And then Squee goes to dad, and dad also doesn't want anything to do with Squee. Dad says, "I haven't smiled since you were born." So Squee has a great home life.
Absolutely, completely. But he's concerned because they just moved into this house, and he's hearing noises like you typically do when you move into a house.
Yeah.
You have not heard the subtle creaking of floorboards or shifting of the house or branches or everything else.
And one thing is, to be fair, he's a little kid. He's not.
Right.
He's not familiar with what goes bump in the night. It's going to make him a little nervous. He's not going to settle for the answer of it's the house settling. Everything's a monster. And in this, it kind of is. So he goes back to his room after not getting any help from his parents, and he finds a broken bedroom window and Johnny in his bathroom looking for Bactine.
Yes, he's quote unquote, "Where the fuck is the Bactine?"
Yeah. So apparently Johnny has gotten himself some wounds. He describes it as something was struggling for its life and was fighting back with great vigor. And that's how he ends up with these wounds.
My favorite line: "Some of this blood is mine."
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, some of this blood is mine. I need to clean it off.
I like how that really settles the whole thing. He's like, oh no, don't worry. This is not all someone else's, and it's not all mine. It's some of it's mine. It's fine. So Johnny starts interacting with Squee, and at a certain point, Johnny grabs Shmee, the little stuffed bear.
Yes.
And Squee has been talking to Shmee the whole time. His stuffed bear. Kids talk to their toys.
Right.
You know.
But he's been this very kind of logical bear talking.
Yeah, it's not like Calvin and Hobbes where when the parents aren't around, it turns into a real, tiger. No, it's just a teddy bear. But now all of a sudden, apparently Shmee has started talking to Johnny because Shmee says something, according to Johnny, that greatly offends him, and Johnny just begins accosting him verbally and stabbing him repeatedly with a knife.
And it's a knife with a crazy angled chink 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 blade to it, where it's not all straight.
Yeah, it's
just
one of those weird,
stabby,
jagged, cartoony blades.
Stabby knife.
And he starts stabbing repeatedly this stuffed bear until he realizes, oh wait, it's a teddy bear. Let me give it back to this poor traumatized child. Now, Johnny goes to leave, and he tells Squee, hey, don't lock the window anymore. I won't have to break it again. And just so you know, we're neighbors now. Which leads to Squee screaming in terror. He's absolutely terrified by this interaction. It's his first experience with anybody that lives in this neighborhood, and he's already off to a great start.
It's like, Mommy, Daddy, I don't hear you, honey. You ruined my life. Yeah,
this poor kid. We're going to see him a lot, and things don't get better for him.
No,
not really. So we move on to a story called A Survey in Hell, where there's a surveyor. I'm not sure if it's for the government or the news, but it's a guy with a survey who's going door to door in Johnny's neighborhood asking about a recent string of murders. And he comes upon Johnny's residence, and Johnny launches into some crazed musings about the animalism of humanity.
All with baby dolls with their hands and feet and genitals stapled and nailed to the wall.
Yeah. His apartment is decorated very, very interestingly.
I think it's more of a Unabomber shed.
Yeah, it's quite a place. And then Johnny introduces the surveyor to the wall. Now, there's a wall in Johnny's house that he believes a creature is behind.
Yes.
And if Johnny doesn't keep fresh, wet blood covering this wall, the creature's going to break through and cause pandemonium.
Right. Not because it has to be fresh blood, but because when it dries, the color changes, and it has to be this color.
Yeah. So Johnny's in a great mental state, as you're aware. Once the surveyor responds in horror to the fact about this bloody wall, Johnny gets offended and throws him out the window, smearing him across the pavement as he lands in the street.
Yes, with multiple, severed limbs and broken bones, bones sticking out of skin.
And of course, poor Squee comes upon him. and again screams.
Yep. That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
So we're going to move forward. There's a story called Another 2 a.m., which is Johnny contemplating suicide.
Well, that's the thing. Multiple times in a couple of issues, it goes from Johnny the homicidal maniac to Johnny the suicidal maniac.
Johnny struggles with his own existence quite often.
It's very he has very manic depressive personalities at this time, and it's just him constantly thinking of the obviously the theme of death.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very prevalent throughout this whole thing. By the name homicide.
If he's not killing somebody, he's thinking about killing himself. And we're introduced to a character who's a figment of Johnny's imagination, but also was once a real living thing. It's a character called Nail Bunny. Johnny went out to a pet store, bought a bunny rabbit, and then nailed it to his wall.
Fed it once.
Yes, fed it once, excuse me.
And then nailed it to his wall.
Yes. So now there's a dead rabbit nailed to Johnny's wall that he has assigned one of his voices in his head to.
It's almost like a voice of, at times, logic and empathy.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
He talks to him. He's like, listen, you don't need to kill yourself. There's no reason for you to do this. It's not what you're supposed to. Like, come on, man. I'm talking to you. We're having a conversation. You don't need to do this to yourself.
Yeah, I think because it was an innocent creature that he nailed to the wall. I think this is his way of having guilt almost, or regret, that he's assigned his empathetic internal voice to this creature that he unjustly killed. Now, Johnny clearly has problems with humanity. He described it to the surveyor, so he can easily answer away his killings of people. But when he's killing this bunny, the bunny didn't do anything.
Right.
So I think that might be his little gleam of humanity coming out, in that he's assigned that empathetic internal monologue to this creature that he unjustly killed.
To Nail Bunny.
Yeah.
And we also get the first introduction to one of the two... the antagonists of this whole thing. And then we learned about Mr. Fuck.
Yeah, so the thing about it's Mr. Fuck, and later we're going to meet Psycho Doughboy. Now, these two things are real in the real world.
It's
the
like
creator, Jonan, actually came across two styrofoam doughboys and custom painted them for his own entertainment. And that is the source material for these two styrofoam doughboys that are painted in the comic, and they play two separate parts of his own inner monologue. Johnny has many voices in his head, and he projects them outwards onto inanimate objects.
Right, like one possibly being a manic type, and the other one possibly being a depressive?
Yes, but I think there's more to it, and we're going to get to that.
Right.
Now, Nail Bunny is trying to convince Johnny not to kill himself because... he's saying Johnny can still get help. Like, it's not too late. Yeah, he's done some terrible things, but he can still get help. Whereas Mr. Fuck, he really is just down for Johnny to go through with it. He's like, yeah, absolutely. Kill yourself. Do it. Now, the part I love about this is that we have these deep conversations with Johnny, Nail Bunny, and Mr. Fuck, and they all end up losing interest at the very end because a TV commercial comes on where the entire family has diarrhea.
Yes.
Which is a nice little commentary to the 90s when TV really grew in popularity. You get all these channels. You know, you still had the 80s on through its inception. There was minimal channels. The 90s when cable really boomed into a whole lot more.
Right.
And TV became a real focal point for the family. It's a nice little commentary to, no matter what you're going through, just shut up and watch TV. It'll be fun.
Yeah, the whole family gets diarrhea.
Yeah. So we move on to issue number 2, which opens up with Johnny going on a date. Now this one's a little interesting because we haven't seen Johnny.
Well, before that happens, we're introduced. Well, not introduced, but we have him basically having someone attached to one of his various murder machines.
Yes.
That he has. Personal favorite one on this one. This man, the entire time, is calm. He's like, "You should let me go." I was like, "No, it's I can't let you go." It's like, you can stop doing this.
Oh, is this the acceptance story?
The faith guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna occasionally address stories that aren't really part of the storyline. This one doesn't really directly tie into the storyline, but I think Davis has a good point in bringing it up because it kind of shows an opposite thought process, I guess, internal workings than Johnny's.
I mean, if you look at this guy, he is literally splayed out like he's on a cross. His
It's
arms are allowed,
very
his legs are down.
Saw-esque. It's very Saw-esque.
And he explains why he needs... He's like, I don't want to kill you. I just need your blood.
Yeah, he needs to paint that wall.
He needs to paint the wall. And the end of the whole thing goes, and he's like, you should let me go, so I'm not going to let you go. And he's like, I see. It's like, well, are you afraid? He's like, well, I would rather not die. But I don't see they have much to say in the matter. But I'm also not like you. I'm not clouded. I have no family, no friends, really nothing. But I do have faith. You know, God and all that. A heaven for me, a hell for you. So fuck fear. I have nothing to fear. And then he gets a bullet through his brain.
Yeah. Doesn't sway Johnny with the speech.
Nope.
But I do enjoy the conviction.
It kind of, he has kind of this whole, like, you can change, you can do this. And it's kind of like a first temptation of Johnny. And by temptation, I mean for him to do good.
Yeah, I could see that. I kind of looked over that one in my initial notes. I like the point, but yeah, you're right. It could be kind of the original, crack in the facade, if you will. So yeah, let's go on to the date. Johnny has met a lovely young lady named Devi who works at the bookstore that he goes to. And they seem to be having a great time.
Mm-hmm. Very brooding.
Yeah,
they're
both very stereotypically goth.
She has a cross earring, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
It's because she's very, very religious. We can tell that. No, it's because it's the typical. There's a lot of the lampooning of the goth style.
Yes.
In this, Johnny's outfit is ridiculous. His boots go up to his knees and have 9 different clasps on them.
He's wearing a striped shirt with a barcode on it.
Well, only in that one. If you notice, Johnny's shirt changes every panel. Every panel, the shirt says something different, which I think is a nice little touch. I really didn't see any addition to the story on what his shirt was saying, but it was a nice little touch to notice that those little details were there. So now Johnny and Debbie are having a great time. They're back at Johnny's place, and it looks like everything's going to go fine. And then Johnny freaks out and runs into his room.
The key thing on this one is she asks him out.
Very true. Very true.
He does not go forward. He does not go forward and say, "Hey, I like you. Let's go do something." She is the one asking out, proving that he really doesn't control much of his life. He just kind of does his own animalistic, just does what he does.
Yeah, very, very instinctually driven. His instincts are broken, but still very instinctually driven. So she's asked him out. He enjoyed the date. She enjoyed the date. And now Johnny's having a turmoil moment. He runs into his room and starts amusing about relationships and just happy moments in general. And he's saying how they always start happy and then they slowly kind of rot away. Like that initial joy of a relationship, usually starts and then it kind of over time falls off, which is what a lot of people do experience in their romantic endeavors is there are a lot of humans that most people will interact with that initially they have a really strong connection with. And then it's the people that are the most important to us, the ones that do stick around, that stay, that have that lasting impact. But to find those, you have to go through all of these, temporal relationships where you have the initial contact, the initial latching on, and then you watch it slowly die as you guys change or as you guys discover more about each other that you don't necessarily like.
The firework.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, baby, you're a firework.
No, no. God, no.
What? We can't Katy Perry?
No.
Okay.
Come on.
Hey, I'm just saying.
If you come in with the whipped cream bra, you can Katy Perry.
Wait, no. Whipped cream bra is totally
from California.
Varsity Blues.
No, California.
Varsity Blues. It came out earlier. It came out the same time this came out of. It is far better of a reference. You shut your foot mouth because the cherries on the end.
In California Girl, she had 2 whipped cream cans as a bra that shot whipped cream out during the song. It was right after Snoop Dogg did his part.
Chris Evans, not another teen movie. He has the whipped cream bikini on to represent Varsity Blues, which came out earlier, far earlier than Katy Perry's career.
Chris Evans, Captain America. That's why this reference makes sense. Moving on.
Captain America, Snowpiercer, Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, he was in Scott Pilgrim. I forgot about that.
And Fantastic Four, but not the point.
He was. Let's not talk about Fantastic Four, the movie.
Either one. Or Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, either one.
Either way. Either way, so in the middle of this date that he's having, he runs to his room, and then we see both of the doughboys there, Psycho Doughboy and Mr. Fuck.
Yeah. Mr. Fuck wants Johnny to spiral back into his misery.
Yes.
Mr. Fuck wants Johnny to break. Now, Psycho Doughboy has a different perspective. He kind of wants Johnny to capture the happiness, to stay in the moment, to stay unaware of what's going on around him, basically. And Johnny has kind of decided that he's going to kill her before the moment can genuinely rot away.
In order to immortalize the moment.
Exactly. If he kills her now, it can never get worse. She is as good as this moment. So he comes out to kill her, and she promptly and efficiently kicks his ass up and down his apartment.
Oh, we were talking, he comes at her with a knife, she kicks him in the chin, punches him in the face, and then grabs his head and just slams it into a mirror. His head hits the, chifforobe underneath it, or not vestibule.
I like chifforobe.
Chifforobe underneath it.
Dresser drawer.
And then this falls down on the ground with one of the doughboys laying off to the side of him.
Yeah, it makes you wonder that how was he able to capture and kill so many people when he is so easily handled by a woman that works in a bookstore? Not to make any judgments, but just by the drawing, she does not seem to be a warrior by trade.
It's because he likes her.
That's probably
The
true.
only reason why, because he likes her.
I understand.
At least that's my opinion.
That's a very astute point. So we move on to. I don't really see anything else in issue number 2 that I really think is
there's
worth
a
noting.
brief instance in which he goes into a convenience store and just wants to get a Slurpee, pretty much, and it doesn't work out his way, and then obviously things just go crazy. And a lot of these supplemental materials, as far as little vignettes within the story, are just instances of you getting more so into this. Why he's killing people.
It helps you get into the world, and it also helps you get into the mind of Johnny.
Right. Like he only killed the guy at the convenience store because the machine was out of his favorite Slurpee.
Yeah. So clearly a justifiable reason.
Exactly. Completely. Yeah. And even then afterwards, it's like, ooh, there's something else? Okay, well here's the $1.15 for that. I'm gonna get a soda instead.
Yeah. So we're moving on to issue number 3. We get to the first time I really kind of realized that this was an ongoing kind of storyline was hidden underneath these short stories, was a story called A Bad Person. Now we see Squee is lost in the mall. He's lost his mother. And he comes upon what ends up being a pedophile who's
with a Scumby t-shirt on.
Yeah, his t-shirt says Scumby, which is wonderful.
There's a funny little Gumby on the front of it all.
Yep. And the pedophile is going to, quote unquote, help him find his mom. So, of course, he takes Squee into a back alley because that's where you find your parents.
Dumpsters and cardboard boxes.
Yeah, that's where you lose your mom. Now, he starts trying to get inappropriate with Squee. But before anything can happen, thankfully, Johnny steps in.
With the metal pipe.
Yeah, hits him across the head with the metal pipe. And then Johnny starts giving a speech to Squee about how we shouldn't give credence to our monsters. That our fears are just our fears.
Right.
We should not let them have power. And to demonstrate this story, he starts dismembering the pedophile to show Johnny, to show Squee, he's just flesh and blood. He's not a monster.
Exactly.
See, look at the bones in his wrist. Look at the brain in his open skull.
Now, we were talking, he chops his hand off to show it to him. Hey, look, it's just flesh and blood. And then with two-prong Wolverine-looking curved hooks, rips open his skull and shows his brain in between the whole area, and it starts ripping it out and just rips the whole thing out to show it's just visceral. It's just blood. It's just a human.
It's interesting. Johnny seems to be trying to teach Squee important things, but it's always horrific, and it always leaves Squee, I'm going to argue, worse for wear.
Exactly. Now, the one thing I will say, one of the really funny things that if you enjoy graphic violence as a funny thing, you will love the fact that randomly in some of the panels, they will have little director's commentary, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
This one's saying, FX Magic. Parents, don't get upset. It's a fake brain. A gelatin mixture was poured into a brain-shaped mold, and then we filled it with the blood of a homeless man. No one will miss him.
They do a lot of these, like nodding to some incredibly drawn, gory scene. You'd be like, isn't special effects amazing? So we're gonna move on to a story that I dubbed Kafka. There's no real title to it, but do you see a title on it?
The You Know What.
The You Know What.
Yeah, right at the top.
Yeah, but that's Johnny the You Know What, as in Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
Oh,
I'm gonna assume.
okay. Then yeah, let's go with Kafka.
I don't know. So it's two goths are leaving a movie theater. They're dating.
And the movie is called
Kafka.
Kafka.
Yeah.
I
So,
believe the movie actually would be a little Kafka-esque.
Now, the male goth is making fun of this skinny, nerdy, weird kid sitting by himself, which we're going to assume
On a Saturday night.
at this point is Johnny. He hated the movie. He's making fun of Johnny. He makes fun of a passerby. He acts very macho. So it's this really terrible person immediately. We're supposed to dislike him, obviously. And then she kind of questions him, about his motives and everything. And she questions, you get made fun of for your haircut, so why are you making fun of somebody else?
Right.
He doesn't quite get the reference, doesn't see the correlation, and then she concedes immediately. She's like, well, you're in a band, so I better, keep dating you. Like, it's definitely a very shallow kind of demonstration on this goth culture that at the time was very, oh, woe is me, we get so picked on for our decisions and our opinions,
right.
But fuck those people,
right?
Because of the things they like.
Well, it's more of a whoa, wait, hold on. The 9 Inch Heels is the band they talk to. It's like,
yes.
Oh, look at her. She got that 9 Inch Heels T-shirt. Oh, she probably bought it at the mall or something. Which, that's the fun part about this goth culture. Is that
the best part about that scene is he is wearing the exact same shirt.
Right.
He's wearing a 9 Inch Heel shirt that is black and white, just like hers.
Yeah, but he got his at a club whenever they were local and they were playing smaller shows.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's this very everybody's persecuted me, so I'm going to persecute others.
Right. It's basically the scene like that is still like that to this day.
Yeah.
When it comes to a lot of things like, oh wait, you like I wrestled a bear once? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, you didn't see him at the local
ass.
venue that I did when I was 17.
Yeah, I saw them whenever they had their first singer and the first screamer when they were sisters. Yeah, you don't like that new stuff. I mean, you don't even know about I Taste Like Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, they definitely tie into a lot of that part of the culture, and unfortunately, you see it a lot in like nerd culture, in comics and video games and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's oh well, you play console games, I play PC, or oh
The PC Master Race.
You only like Marvel because of the movies. I've
Right.
been reading comics since I was a kid. It's this very. It's almost as if most of the culture has spent so long defending the things it likes that it starts defending the things it likes from other people that like it.
Right.
They're so used to defending
completely.
themselves that they start defending it from other people that like it as opposed to trying to find the common ground. And this is a great kind of commentary on that. It still hasn't changed to this day, 20-something years later.
Right. It's like that one time I yelled at my roommate because he got the wrong title of the Modest Mouse song.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was Voodoo Fest last year. They start playing the opening.
This is recent.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you're still. It's ingrained.
No.
It's ingrained.
I was listening. We were watching Modest Mouse, and they started playing the opening track from their Good News, People Who Like Bad News, and it's like the doon 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 doon. Ice wave, heat wave, can't complain if the world's at large, baby, I'm the same. And he was like, oh, dude, Float On. I'm like, no, that is not Float On. That is track number 4 on this album. You are ruining this for me right now. You shut your filthy mouth. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I got really excited.
It's almost ingrained. I'll do it too. I will see some dude who's in shape walking around a tank top, and I'll be like, that fucking douche. And then I'll look down and notice that I am wearing a tank top. And I know that I'm wearing a tank. I am also that guy, and I don't think I'm a bad person. But for some reason, my gut reaction is always to, oh, that guy. And it's definitely fun to watch this kind of commentary play out in this very in-your-face moment.
Very just raw.
Yeah. So Johnny steps in immediately and tases both of them.
Taser to the neck.
Yeah. They wake up at Johnny's house, ready for torture. And Johnny's like, oh, hi, welcome. And she immediately looks to him and is like, you're such an asshole. She immediately blames him for his bad behavior.
Oh, obviously. Then they have a public service announcement after that. We're not going to tell you exactly what it is, but it's paid for by the council of people who are sick of seeing more people.
Yeah, it's another little graphic vignette for the fun of it.
A lot of it. This is really easy to get through if you can just like chunk it out like this. It's a little small. Like the longest one is like maybe 6 pages long for you to have that train of thought going for 6 pages.
See, personally for me, it was more difficult with the little vignettes. Like until I saw the overarching story, I wasn't engaged to continue. You know, I was just like, oh, okay, it's like watching an episode of the Looney Tunes. It's like you could watch one of the vignettes without seeing the whole episode and get the story. And that's what I thought was going on in the beginning, so I didn't really care to read the next one because I already read one.
Are you saying overarching?
Yes.
I thought it was overarching.
Is it? Greg, look it up.
Yeah, all right. So while Greg is looking that up.
Yes.
While Greg is looking that up, after that one we have
I think the next one of value to talk about is the Suicidal Maniac.
Okay.
The next issue of the Suicidal Maniac.
Yes.
Is Mr. Fuck is again trying to convince Johnny to kill himself. But Johnny in this one is musing that he doesn't think he can die. He's been in some graphic situations and been fine. He has killed people in plain sight.
A flower seller, actually, and drained his blood on the sidewalk.
And not been caught. So Johnny kind of thinks that the universe is for him. Mm-hmm. Now Psycho Doughboy is kind of arguing for Johnny and against Mr. Fuck. He wants Johnny to continue the lunacy.
Right. And then we kind of see, looks like Doughboy's kind of leaning towards Mr. Fuck as he's talking to him.
Yeah, it's a little, they start to move, but we start to see Mr. Fuck and Psycho Doughboy's motives. Mr. Fuck seems to want Johnny dead so that he can escape outside of this world. Mm-hmm. Like he seems to be under the impression that there's something greater. It's almost a reference to Jonin, as if the almighty creator, if Johnny kills himself, there's no reason to have the book, so he can go back home to the creator. Whereas Psycho Doughboy wants Johnny to push it farther so that he can gain more power inside the comic and start being free.
Right.
And this is where we start seeing that in that it looks like the Doughboys start moving a little bit. Now Nail Bunny jumps in, and Nail Bunny argues that that they're both no longer figments of Johnny's imagination.
No.
We have the answer.
Greg has found the answer to the overarching versus overarching.
It's the Merriam-Webster site has sound.
Overarching.
Merriam-Webster says overarching.
It is overarching. I stand corrected. I will not change my vocabulary.
Let's not let the liberal media.
Let's not let the liberal in-depth media tell us.
Can we go in the Merriam-Limbaugh dictionary and see if what it says?
Marion Limbaugh.
Marion Limbaugh. She's a very lovely lady.
It's Rush's aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Rashina.
Nail Bunny is arguing that neither of the Doughboys are figments of Johnny's imagination any longer.
Yes, they're now something new.
They've separated themselves.
Yes.
And Johnny, to prove a point, has decided he's going to try and kill himself.
Tase himself to the neck!
Yeah. And it doesn't work. But Mr. Fuck is like, dude, it's not charged. Like, you can't tase yourself with a dead taser. And then all of a sudden, Johnny goes, wait a minute. Are you guys moving?
Yeah. After Mr. Fuck rips the head of Nail Bunny off of its nailed to something body.
Yeah, again.
And if it's still talking,
thankfully Nail Bunny's dead, so there's not a lot of blood.
Right.
He's dried out a long time ago. Yeah, so Johnny then starts questioning the moving, and they say, we're styrofoam, we can't move.
And they're back in their original position. To
which then Johnny screams in terror, and of course poor Squee is the one that hears it while he's laying in his bed. We get to part 4, which is Descent. And this is the first time we kind of see Johnny in a bad place for himself.
Right. It's very just crumbling psyche.
Yeah. Johnny's having a conversation with the now floating severed head of Nail Bunny. Mm-hmm. Clearly, that's not his own lunacy, obviously. So he recognizes that the voice of Nail Bunny has been with Johnny in his head since before Nail Bunny was a thing. Before he bought the bunny, before he nailed it to the wall, this voice was in his head. Mm-hmm. He just manifested it into this character.
Right, and it's a very unlike Mr. Fuck and Doughboy. It wasn't there before, though he doesn't know if they were there before.
Yeah.
But he knows that Nail Bunny has been there for an extended period of time.
And he starts questioning his motives. He's like, why am I doing this? Why am I killing all these people? Why am I not torturing them like I used to? Why am I painting the wall with blood? That doesn't make any sense. Like, why would I do that? And he kind of realizes the doughboys have been manipulating him, and that's why he's doing these things that are out of character for him.
See, I want to point the top part of one of the pages. It has these really just very realistic, graphic-looking dark images. And he was saying how it's like, you used to paint. You used to draw. You used to do this and that. Now all you can handle is this fucking stick figure noodle boy as your outlet.
Yeah.
Which
I do like that part.
Which I really think that, as far as drawing these comics, a little bit of the creator putting himself into the art.
Yeah, because he, like I said, he has been quoted as saying the production was a mess on this. He just kind of spit it out. Mm-hmm. So that may be him kind of dealing with himself, saying, "Oh, all I have time for is this, a noodle boy." Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then like I said, he realizes the doughboys have been manipulating him and kind of pushing him into this direction. To which the last panel of this one is one I really love. It's just him in his basement underneath the house, and it just says, "Bunny, I'm not happy."
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah, it's the first kind of realization that Johnny is not unhappy because of the outside world. He's unhappy with himself.
Yeah, which
it's the first. It's not the first. With the faith
big
one,
humanizing.
The faith one was the first crack in the facade, but this is definitely expanding that crack. And then I want to jump to "These are not good times to be around me." This story, I think, is a little important because he visits the goths from the Kafka film that he has captured, and he claims, "Look, I have to come down here every so often and electrocute this guy. That's just what I do," and he claims that this guy, he doesn't want to do this. He doesn't really particularly like it. He just needs that guy's blood.
Yeah, he just needs the blood to paint the wall.
It's another one where he just needs the blood. But we also see kind of Johnny's limits. We saw it with the pedophile earlier, and then the goth girl accuses Johnny of being a mass murderer, and if he doesn't argue with that part, but there is an instance of one of these murdered bodies being raped. And Johnny immediately loses it.
Yeah,
he's horrified.
Exactly. And that was a very defining point. It's like, no, I don't want to be touched, let alone why would I touch someone?
Yeah, so we kind of, it's one of our first, after the pedophile, we see Johnny has a problem with pedophiles. Johnny also has a problem with the rape. Johnny has a clear line. Like, it's not, it's definitely not okay what he's doing. But, it's kind of that honor among thieves, like when the pedophile goes to jail, he has a bad time because the rest of the prisoners don't agree with that level of crime.
Right. I mean, it's very hurting these people that he deems not worthy to be living at that point in time.
Yes.
And he's like, no, I'm not gonna rape anyone. No, I'm just going to kill them because they deserve to be killed.
What I do like though is he starts going off on this very, very what seems to be a deep kind of monologue. To which she stops and goes, "Are you quoting The Fly?"
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, which I think is great. It kind of further outlines the unoriginality of that goth subculture of like, well, I could articulate my thoughts into something I already I have to create, or I could just quote this song where this lyric really, it's that he's quoting someone else's creative work because it kind of speaks to him. Mm-hmm. And at the end, we don't really get any resolution. Well, he electrocutes the goth boy, and then he's like, "I'll be back in a little bit to do it again."
Well, like quoting The Fly, quoting film, quoting anything like that. That's as far as this thing getting made 20 years ago from its beginning.
Yeah.
We haven't changed much as a culture.
No,
as a matter of fact, we've really just embraced this whole. Oh no, people have created something. So I'm going to quote that to express myself right now instead of
absolutely. There's
memes.
Some very not even. I would say there's some very embarrassing Facebook status posts that I find in my memories occasionally.
Oh, every day
of me quoting songs that really don't pertain to my existence at all. But just at the time, I was like, "Oh, this is so deep. This describes my moment." Like, no, shut up. It does not.
It's like Dance Gavin Dance is great, but it's not that good.
Messenger?
Oh yeah.
Remember that? People would always put music lyrics in the little profile.
Oh, of course, because that's what it was.
Remember at one point
that was who you were.
I think I had a MIDI version of Helena on my something or another. do 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 do.
This is going to be the remainder of the hour. We're just going to have Davis
Do MIDI versions of all my favorite songs.
just mouth the MIDI versions. Yeah. So Johnny further outlines the unoriginality of the goth subculture, but then no resolution. No. Just, I'm going to electrocute this guy, and then I'm going to come back in a little while to do it again.
Because he needs the blood.
Yeah, it's very simple.
The next part is a call, which we're finally not talking to Johnny as of right now. We see Devi and her equally as goth fishnets over the black bra roommate in their apartment.
This is actually not the one I'm talking about.
Really?
No.
Okay, go.
I am talking about the other half of this. I thought this one was moderately important, but not important enough because the other half of this story is the important part.
Oh.
Now the one Davis is referring to does tie directly into it.
It's also called a call.
Oh, they're both called that.
Well, this one has a
question
asterisk.
mark. Oh, yeah. Asterisk. Oh, okay. But yeah, no, they're both kind of referred to. So the one Davis is referring to is Debbie after dealing with Johnny. She's terrified to leave her house.
Right. And
her friend tells her, well, just call him. I'm sure he already left. You know, he's like, oh no, I have to leave town because I did this horrible thing to you, and the police are going to get called. So she tells the friend to call Johnny, and I'm sure the line's going to be disconnected. And she calls Johnny. She hears a hello, and then a horrific
blam, whump, ah! Click.
Thank you for the Foley work, Davis.
No problem.
Yeah. But so the one I want to talk about is the other half of that phone call.
A call?
Yeah, is Johnny has decided he's going to kill himself. So he has rigged up a gun on a robotic arm to the phone so that if somebody calls him and he picks up, or if he
says hello,
or if he tries to deactivate it, the gun will find him and fire.
Conveniently bought at Radio Shack.
Yeah, and what he's saying is he's trying to take back control of his life. Nail Bunny has already stopped talking, and then the Psycho Doughboys are the only ones left. He's tired of being influenced by these two Doughboy characters. Now, Psycho Doughboy even comments though. He's like, "This is a stupid plan. Like, you don't have any friends. Who's going to call you?" And then immediately the phone rings, and it's Debbie's call.
Well, the best part. Before all of this, he's like, no, I'm not going to kill myself. You don't control me, Mr. Fuck. Ha ha. All right, good job. Put that guy in his place. No, Doughboy, you don't control me. I control me. And you know what? I'm going to switch this machine off. Click. What? Idiot, the machine wasn't on. Yeah, okay, fine. Ring, ring. Hello?
That's a good point. I forgot that he had tried to turn the machine off.
Yeah, well, he turned the machine on.
Yeah.
At that point. That's the Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, and then immediately kills him. So now Johnny, despite his best efforts, is dead.
And then Tarantinoing, well, now we know what the noises were whenever Devi called him.
Yeah. Devi ended up killing Johnny.
Yes.
Inadvertently.
Yes.
So we go on to Johnny being dead. Relatively important, but I don't think necessary to the story. I think
we see him shot in the head.
Yeah. I think the next important part is an eventful day, which is we open on the two goths. We're finally learn their names in this one. Her name is Tess, and his name is Dylan.
Of course, his name is Dylan.
Yeah. So,
I hate that name.
Tess, I don't know if I've met a good Dylan.
I know one Dylan from middle school / high school. I don't remember much about him. But I remember that maybe we weren't the best of friends. I had nothing really against him, but I don't know him and people named Chad.
I've never met a good Chad.
Yeah, I've only met like one good Brad.
Yeah, I know one good Brad. Anyway, so we to Tess and Dylan, and Tess is hearing noises. She's hearing things shake, and all of a sudden, another victim pops out from the floor.
Underneath the floor.
Yeah, a man named Kirk, who has finally gotten himself out of his torture chamber.
Right.
And he moves on to unlock Tess and Dylan.
Now, also, Tess and Dylan are locked up right in front of the blood wall.
Yeah. Not a good spot for them to be. No. Now, Tess keeps continuing to hear the creaking, and guess what? It's the wall. Johnny has neglected painting the wall as of late, and it looks like he was not insane. There is something behind the wall.
It's this visceral, I don't even know if that's the proper word to describe it, very Beetlejuicean Bertian
Tentacle-y
alien tentacle hentai rape porn.
But way before that was a thing, though. Like,
Well,
I didn't know about.
I don't know I don't know the history of tentacle rape porn, but I'm pretty sure it's been happening in Japan since before 1995.
But if you look at the internet information, though, we were not aware of it at the time.
Oh no, not at all. But I'm just saying this for the guy that wrote this whole thing, he probably had some,
So it's
bootleg
entirely
betas.
possible that he started this whole thing.
Anyway, so this creature goes and just, while Dylan is still hooked up to this wall, just
Tears him to shreds.
Wouldn't even use the meal at this point in time. It's just that shredded up.
Kirk manages to unlock Tess, and then they both run.
As you should, through the various, bowels and levels of his basement.
Yeah, which is great. His house is this tiny little terrible shack, but he has this very elaborate system of like a labyrinth almost.
At least like 10 floors.
Yeah, it's bananas. And now, as they're running, Kirk kind of reveals how awful he is. Like, the reason he's here, he saw Johnny at a gas station while he was drunk, made fun of him and pushed him around. Mm-hmm. And then Johnny ends up
shooting laser beams from his eyes.
Yeah, Tess definitely questions that part, but Kirk also comments that Johnny did take part of his brain.
Yeah,
so
he did.
Yeah, so he kind of reveals that he's very, very aggro, very kind of misogynistic, very violent. Like even makes a comment about Tess and her attractiveness.
Yeah, it's like, man, how come she doesn't like my overall masculinity and overbearingness?
Yeah, he's definitely not a good person. So you immediately like, yeah, I don't feel bad for this guy.
Yeah, and while they're running and he's telling the story, they stumble upon a giant room of nothing but people attached to a wall that Johnny's been torturing.
Yeah, it's pretty jarring.
I have a rat in my anus. That's what one of the people says. That's not audio commentary from mine.
It's both. Davis has a rat in his anus, and so does the guy in the comic.
I'm the katata fish. You need to go to the small intestine.
So Kirk wants to run. Tess wants to save them, but knows she can't. And immediately the tentacles just start ripping the people apart as they run out of the room. And now Tess and Kirk encounter the Doughboys. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, Psycho Doughboy sees it as the end. Like, he was going to get out. He was going to break free with Johnny going crazy, but now everything's kind of collapsed and it's ruined.
So they've been referencing, the Doughboy's been saying, my master.
Yeah.
But we don't really know what this master is.
They kind of allude that it's the tentacle thing, but they don't outright say it. So maybe they're... I said, I think it's the artist that they're referring to, the creator, and they're referring to it through the tentacle thing. Because now that the main character of the comic is dead, there's no point to have the comic.
Right.
So the comic is going to end. No, Psycho Doughboy sees it as his end, but Mr. Fuck sees it as his return home. So he's really excited. Psycho Doughboy's really upset. Either way, they're both torn apart by the tentacles.
Literally.
Yeah. We get to a story called The Most Beloved Massive Head Wound Recipient, referring to Johnny.
I will say, the vignette in between there, because, Johnny is, at this point in time, dead.
Yes.
It goes to a small, single-page thing with a character named Anguish.
Yeah, this one was, to me, it was...
Just making fun of goth subculture. That's all it is.
This one was lazy. Like, I didn't like the Anguish stories. There's a couple in here. It's lazy.
This was the goth episode of South Park almost a decade before the goth episode of South Park came out.
But that's when the whole story is referencing goth subculture without immediately and outright, saying it, when Anguish just outright says in writing how terrible the subculture can be, it's lazy to me. I'm sorry.
Well, that could have been Jonan's feminine side coming out.
I know I can't deal with no. He does such a good job detailing with Johnny. Just these little tiny individual bits that are part of the story, but not the whole story. And then he's just like, here you go. It's like the lunch lady.
Sometimes you gotta slap your dick on the table.
There's a chef and there's a lunch lady. And the lunch lady just scoops some slop onto the damn the lunch tray.
The chef
Here
has
you
the
go.
mise en place. I
Yeah,
get it.
exactly.
I get it. I get
There's
it.
no presentation in it. I don't agree with it.
I don't know. I thought it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You can eat it. And, yeah, I'm just saying, just we arrive at a place where I can be appreciated for my originality, but everyone wears black and has onks.
Yeah, exactly. What a, an imaginative and interesting way to portray that thought process.
Again, I liked it. If you would have read this before you saw the South Park episode, you would have enjoyed it.
I don't think...
You don't think. Exactly. You don't think.
You monster.
You're a monster.
We're going to put our differences aside for the moment.
Yeah, we will. For now.
Yeah, so getting to the most beloved massive head wound recipient.
In existence.
Yeah. Kirk and Tess make it to the top floor, and they find Johnny's body.
Yeah.
Now, Johnny's not quite dead yet, but he is dying.
Ooh, they do use the term, hey, testicles.
They do. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Wonderful. Johnny is kind of regretting his existence, giving into his violent urges, killing himself, all those things. He's kind of like, why did I even bother indulging this? Yeah. I could have ended up living longer and arguably happier if I hadn't indulged these things.
And he lets Kirk know his head looks like a potato.
Yeah. Kirk has stopped to, I guess for lack of a better term, stomp Johnny.
If there was a curb involved, yes, but he is heel stomping the absolute piss out of him.
He wants to he wants to kind of get his vengeance for no reason, which ends up sealing his fate because as he's doing this, the tentacles show up and end up capturing him.
They don't even capture him. It wraps one of the tentacles loosely around him and then slice with the spikes.
Yeah, just cuts him right through.
Eviscerating him, as the proper term would be.
Now, Tess is left alive, but she goes to the door to find that the rest of existence has broken down around the house.
Yeah, and she even blurs out of existence, and the only thing we're left with is Johnny lying on a floating floorboards of his in the vastness of outer space.
Yeah. So definitely a nod to the fact that without the main character, there's no real need for the universe.
Right.
The universe is destroyed because the only point it existed was because of Johnny. Same thing with his death and his getting away with the crime. The only reason that he's even there is to tell the story in the first place. So now we get to Johnny showing up in heaven.
For part 6.
Yeah.
Book 6.
Now Johnny shows up in heaven, and he knows he's not supposed to be there. But he runs into, for lack of a better term, St. Peter.
Yeah.
Because St. Peter
St.
arguably
Peter Frampton, maybe,
is the guy that guards the pearly gates and lets people in and out. But St. Peter
he gives him a Band-Aid.
Doesn't immediately knows. Well, yeah, very true. Johnny does ask for a Band-Aid because of his head wound, and of course it's magically fixed immediately.
Yeah, well, because it's a Band-Aid.
It's a heaven Band-Aid, yeah.
Band-Aid.
Now St. Peter doesn't recognize Johnny immediately and has to look him up in the book. This immediately leads to him screaming and retching as he reviews Johnny's deeds. So Johnny just kind of walks into heaven and meets God, who is what appears to be a fat baby in a recliner that can move itself.
Yes, with like a kind of a spidery-looking monster underneath it controlling the whole thing.
So Johnny is talking to God, and he's like, hey, how about you answer some questions maybe, or get involved in the world because it's pretty horrific? And God's like, I created the universe, I'm tired. And Johnny's like, that was 12 billion years ago. Like, what do you mean you're tired? And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to rest a little bit.
Sorry. All right, I just created the whole universe. I should totally be out running laps right now.
Yeah, that definitely portrays this very lazy God concept, which has been kind of talked about before. The people of why would God allow such injustice in the world? This is Johnny's kind of touch on that what kind of God would allow such pain and suffering in the world except for one that doesn't care. So Johnny kind of gets into heaven and he sees all these people sitting in chairs just content. It's a very, very traditional view. I don't want to say traditional, but correct view. As per scripture, heaven is a place where you're near God and not wanting.
See, this just reminds me there's a play that came out in which everyone is in heaven and pretty much everyone just sits there.
Yeah.
That's it. Also, a Family Guy reference from the first or second season whenever Peter finds out he has a black relative from back in the day that was owned by the Pewterschmidts back in the day. Mm-hmm. And he looks him in the table. He's like, Peter, blah, blah, blah. It's like, so what's heaven like? Oh, it's great. It's not a lot of chairs, though. Huh. That's all I got.
Well, according to Jonan, there's a lot of chairs in heaven.
Well, they float too. So.
Yeah, but it's just people sitting there. They're content. They don't want for anything. They don't have any desires, no aggressions, no nothing. They're just content.
Nope. But they are incredibly powerful beings. But they're just content.
Johnny quickly gets bored, causes a bunch of mayhem, and immediately gets sent to hell.
Well, you're forgetting the key part, sir. You learn that everyone in heaven has head-splodey abilities.
I didn't like that part.
I love the head
exploding.
Just the nun exploding everyone's head at the end of it all.
It was. Anyone that's watched Invader Zim knows that moment where the joke just keeps going a little bit longer than it needs to, and it's just taking away from telling the story. That's what I felt this part was. I was like, you could have just been like, hey, Johnny starts causing some problems and then gets sent to hell. We didn't need all this head-sploding nonsense.
Well, I like the end. It's like, God, where do you keep all the mops? It's like, is she talking to God or is she exclaiming God?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, she is.
So he goes to hell.
Yeah, Johnny goes to hell and he meets the devil.
Nope, that's not his name.
What's his name again?
Senor Diablo.
Yes.
Or Mr. Satan.
Yeah. So Johnny meets the devil. And he kind of gets a explanation of his existence. Mm-hmm. And the devil explains that in every kind of pocket of existence, there is one, for lack of a better term, dump that gets all of the awful. Like, they just get all of the awful energy dumped into them to put the rest of that plane of existence into balance. And guess what? You're one of them, Johnny. That's why your life sucks so hard. That's why everybody shits on you, is because you are the release valve for all the awful in this plane of existence.
You are literally human garbage.
Yeah. And when you die, it all gets flushed away with you, and that plane of existence isn't polluted by garbage.
Yeah, it's reset.
Yeah. You're a giant waste bin.
Mm-hmm. A flusher.
Yeah, so Johnny's really excited about his existence at that point, but he decides to go explore hell, and hell looks a lot like a suburb. Like, it's just people are buying cars and clothes to impress each other. Every minor inconvenience is the worst thing you've ever experienced ever.
Like, they're at it. Wait, it costs 50 cents for sour cream? Well, I'm out! Worst thing in the world.
Yeah, that guy ends up running into the street and getting run over a truck because he can't.
That happens a lot, actually.
Yeah,
People get hit by cars in hell a lot.
There's another character who will not buy glasses. She has contacts and they are incredibly itchy, but she can't be seen in glasses, so she continues to wear the contacts.
Right.
And that's her personal hell, is her vanity will not allow her to be comfortable. So Johnny is quickly fed up with both heaven and hell.
I will say a giant. I don't know whether it's supposed to be a nod to anti-capitalism or anything like that. It's like, hey, we're in hell. Cool. Can I get this jacket? Yeah, well, it costs you money. Well, why do we need money? It's like, well, you need money to buy clothes and a car and to exist. Come on, dude, get your shit together. But they're in hell.
Yeah, it's hell is literally people have created a regular existence for themselves. Just this I need to impress others through capitalism lifestyle. That's also a commentary in this story. So Johnny's pretty much fed up with hell, and he finds out from Senor Diablo that he gets to be resurrected. So he ends up...
Well, whenever Senor Diablo changes his form from looking like the typical devil with the horns and the coat to being a cheerleader.
Which terrifies Johnny.
It terrified me a little bit too. I was a cheerleader, so let's just leave it at that.
I really hope you got to wear the midriff.
No, we wore polos and khaki shorts.
I wanted the midriff.
No, I don't do
polos and khaki shorts. Sounds like a sleepaway camp counselor.
A little bit. We had cargos because it was the mid 2000s.
Oh, because you need to store a lot of cargo in your pants while you're throwing people in the air.
Yeah, hand chalk. First aid stuff.
Or you could put that on the side.
Snacks?
On the side.
Snacks?
God damn it.
Bottled water?
So Johnny gets resurrected.
A frog?
So Johnny gets resurrected and he ends up returning home. There's no monster. There's no doughboys. There's no Nail Bunny.
Nope.
There's just a Bub's Burgers statue.
It's not... It's the fat boy.
It's literally, he says Bub's Burgers. It's the Burger Boy. It's
Bub's Burgers.
It's a typical Burger Boy, only it's got jagged teeth and kind of drooly. And it is now the outlet for all of his voices. Johnny realizes he's back in existence and he has a chance to do whatever he wants. So he immediately sits in front of the TV.
Yep. Quick note. I love the TV just because the TV literally has bunny ears on it. Like it is a decapitated scalp of a bunny rabbit on top. That
actual rabbit ears.
Yeah, it's bunny ears.
It's a nice touch. So we're jumping to part 7. We get to a story called An Admirer of Sorts, where a man named Jimmy comes to Johnny's door. Now, Jimmy
calls himself Me for short.
Yeah, because Johnny calls himself Knee, N-N-Y, which is really hard to read until they explain it.
Okay, so before we begin in this one, spoiler alerting, but not spoiler alerting. So this guy basically has been following around Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and copying him. He's like, oh, I even got a striped shirt like yours, even my hair like yours. But wait, you're not. Your hair's different now because you're back, because you're here, and your shirt's different, and you're not wearing the cool boots anymore and everything. And I really want to know the time, because there's only 6 or 7 issues that have come out over 2 years worth of time?
Yes.
Yeah, I really want to know how much this took off and how much of him looking at fucking fanboys.
It might have happened, honestly, because it was every couple months one would have to be released.
Right. And I noticed they the font in this, not font, lettering in this one went from being handwritten to actually being done on a computer.
Yeah.
In this last one.
I'm not sure if that was intentional, if that refers to the quote-unquote production mess.
I really think quote-unquote production.
John talked about.
I'm thinking more of it's kind of like whenever when they made home movies and this wonderful new program called Flash came out. And they started making all their episodes on Flash. It was, technological advance with that. But I really just how much time has progressed into it's like, oh wait, no, I have fanboys now that are dressing in this pseudo goth style that love this comic, and they buy the shirts from Hot Topic and they buy the issues and everything else. And someone has, a squee forearm tattoo and
because how dare people enjoy the thing you created?
Which goes back to the idea of the goth subculture.
Exactly. Me is an admirer of Johnny and kind of wants to be his protege / partner / friend. He's kind of modeled himself after, like you said, he dresses like him. He's even been killing like him. And then as he's revealing this to Johnny, he reveals that he is the one that raped the girl that Tess had originally referenced. To which Johnny cannot stand.
He throws a knife that hits him square in the shoulder, going through the wall and impaling him in the shoulder.
Yeah. He immediately starts torturing Jimmy, and the whole time Jimmy's exclaiming, he's like, "Why don't you like me? I'm just like you. We can be friends. We're the same. I'm like you." To which Johnny just says on the killing blow, "I don't like myself much."
Also, if you can read this, you're probably dead. You're probably not dead yet. Sincerely, management.
Yeah, nice little editor's notes. We go to the ring, which is Johnny is going to call Debbie, the woman he went on a date with and tried to kill, to apologize. Now, he's pre-recorded a message because he doesn't really have the stones, if you will, to kind of do it himself. He believes that he's going to crack while he's trying to communicate.
Right. So he does what every goth person should do.
What every angsty teenager does, and they think a recording is going to express their feelings properly. He thinks it's this noble gesture.
Sunday.
It's you do not talk about remembering Sunday that way.
I'm just saying,
a very important song in my childhood.
Going back to us talking about, these lyrics that I really enjoyed, that really represent me. I'm gonna put on a mixtape.
I definitely quoted some All Time Low and some status updates before.
We all did.
We all did.
We all did.
We all are All Time Low. We are All Time Low. Yeah. So Johnny thinks he's doing this noble gesture. He's saying, I'm sorry. I definitely was wrong. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to not want to vomit when you think of me. And he thinks he's doing this very noble gesture, to which Debbie immediately calls him out on for being a self-righteous douche.
Right.
She's like, no. This is not your chance.
Pick up the phone.
This is not your. Yeah.
Pick up the phone. I know you're there. Pick up the damn phone.
She's basically like, look, I have been hiding in my house since we last met, and you think, and this is your chance to get closure. You need closure. I have been hiding in fear for my life from you. And basically calls him out, for lack of a better term, emasculates the hell out of him, and kind of takes credence away from his personal journey by saying, look, I'm going to make me happy. You're not going to make me happy. You're not going to make me sad. You're not going to make me anything. I'm going to make me me. I don't need the outside factor. And Johnny's entire thing so far has been how terrible the outside world is to him. So she completely tears that under and just hangs up on him, shattering his expectations of how that interaction is going to go, which who as a young man hasn't done a self-righteous, I thought this was a noble gesture, when turns out you're just being a douche.
I mean, really, all the interactions with Devi have really just been a very, very just faint remembrance of high school and parts of college when it comes to dealing with women.
Yeah, there's definitely been a modicum of crossover here and there, which is kind of terrifying. And then we get to what I think is the last story of importance, Good Luck Squee, where Johnny has come to visit Squee to tell him goodbye. Johnny is leaving for a while, and he won't be around to quote-unquote protect him. Because, that's... While Johnny has been tormenting Squee unintentionally, he has also been the only advocate for Squee's safety.
Yes.
Johnny points out that his parents really don't like him or take good care of him at all.
Right. And then Squee's dad starts walking into the room at this point in time.
So Johnny goes under the bed to hide. And Davis, what does Squee's dad tell to him? Because this moment is very, very rough to read.
So he's sitting there. He's like, I know we're not paying a lot of attention to you, but here's a reason. He's just, I resent your existence. Saying how he's like, listen, I had so many plans. Like, I never planned for my life to be this way. Little kid, I'm sorry. Nobody loves you. But just think about it. Think about how miserable I am and how much of this is your fault. Then a nice whack, thud. Johnny knocks him unconscious with a, I assume, metal and or plastic robot toy.
Yeah. To which Johnny starts musing because he goes off on the fact that, I'm sorry about that, your dad might be blind. But hey, if your dad's blind, you can get away with more stuff. Well, unless his hearing gets heightened. So we better prick his eardrums. But what if his sense of smell gets stronger?
Oh, it's crazy olfactory ninja.
Yeah. He starts going on this tangent and then eventually stops himself.
Well, it's just like very, very sad. I like monkeys.
Yeah. And then he looks to Squee and he's like, look, take care of yourself. And one of the things I really like that he says, is a couple of lines. He says, it's easy to be affected by your fears and hatred. It must be nice to still have the opportunity to save the cohesion of your pretty mind. And my personal favorite quote, the best some people can hope for is to better manage their damage. Which I think is a really good kind of bow on the story. Mm-hmm. It's the whole point is that everybody has their problems. They're not all as bad as Johnny's or Squee's. Right. But all we can really hope for is to kind of better manage the horror that we've encountered. And Johnny leaves, and Squee is finally going to sleep. And the moment he closes his eyes, he immediately has absolutely horrific nightmares and starts screaming, which is, just kind of showing the fact that Johnny has ruined Squee. There is no better managing your damage.
No, but then again, how more ruined could Squee have been?
But here's my thing. This is the moment that I realized Squee was Johnny. If you look at Squee, they have the same hair, they have the same facial structure, and the same shirt the entire time. Squee is a young Johnny. That's why Johnny, I'm not sure, it's definitely the author trying to portray a younger version of himself and how one could get to that level.
Right.
But it's also a way to be like, look, if somebody was looking out for the younger version, maybe he won't grow up into the Johnny. And it kind of puts a little bow on the story. Poor Squee, but
he never stood a chance.
He doesn't. Some of the big themes of this one is this quote unquote outcast culture.
Yeah.
And this victimization that we still see a lot of today.
Right.
It's just like, oh, woe is me. Everybody picks on me. But look how ridiculous that person looks.
Exactly.
It's almost, let me redirect my feelings because I can't, I can't take the fact that someone doesn't like me and just exist without doing it to someone else. You almost have to reciprocate Johnny makes a point about humans being very instinctually violent, and it's almost a non-physical form of violence. It's you have to reciprocate the pain you're feeling to someone else, which is something we do see a lot in the culture. We see this also, the struggle for belonging, but also kind of indulging your fantasies.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very, everything that he does in this, as far as, that guy cut me in line. Man, I'd like to just rip out his spinal cord and play it like a xylophone in front of his parents.
Exactly. We've all been there. We have all experienced these moments where somebody does something terrible, like somebody cuts you off on the road.
It's not even terrible. It's just superfluous
your
things. We ourselves, it's like someone could have, on a daily basis, no one has to deal with avenging the death of their mother or father at that point in time. Yeah. But everyone has been like, that dude cut me off.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
I hope he dies in a fire.
The great part about this story is it's what happens when the revenge fantasy goes a little too far.
Yes.
When it stops being a fantasy and you start manifesting in reality. This is what it would look like.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool. It definitely touches on the materialism, especially when it gets to hell.
Oh, completely.
And shows that the materialism of the modern American society. Shows the incongruency of a lot of the modern religious concept. A lot of the problems that people traditionally do have with organized religions. And well, if you have the benevolent God, why do we have suffering?
Yeah.
If we have this organized system that's been grandly designed, why does existence look the way it does?
Right.
Which is.
And if the devil fell, why is he organizing a place for those that have also fallen?
Yeah, it's he definitely does point out a lot of those problems because it was in the 90s, though it's not necessarily an original way to look at them. I think those conversations have definitely evolved since then to a much more complicated place.
Right.
So it reminds me of my teenage musings about organized religion.
Well, I mean, come on.
And it's exactly what it is.
This is the exact same time. Yeah. I remember this printing being out when I was in high school, middle school, high school, and, being passed around my friends. Hey, listen, I bought this with my $20 worth of allowance that I got. Just pass it amongst all your friends and blah, 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 blah.
And the most important theme, I think, is the one we touched on at the very end, was everybody's damaged. It's just a matter of how you deal with it. Mm-hmm. Johnny clearly hasn't but he's hoping that Squee can deal with it a little bit better.
Kind of that, well, and if you think about it, we have this goth subculture and this very, for lack of a better term, the hot topic subculture that developed in the mid-90s. And it's kind of every time a generation does it, they do it so that the next line of kids don't have the same problems. Or at least they can adapt and, handle them better. I mean, if you look at the cutting culture of the goths, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was a huge thing. It's like, listen, we're doing this, and there's no glorifying behind this. This is just how these people have been dealing with it, and there are better ways and there are better things to do it, so the next generation doesn't have to deal with that.
Yeah, and that eventually became the to write love on her arms.
Yes,
movement
exactly.
was the immediate response to that. Mm-hmm. So that there is definitely a. We're not going to fix it, but we're going to make it better, right. Incrementally, one step at a time.
And especially for, just lumping in the reject kids.
Yeah.
The hot topic kids, the ones that are in this level of counterculture and no hair flip. No one understands me.
Davis just pantomimed a hair flip for everybody that's watching at home.
Yeah, I don't have much hair to flip. But
it doesn't move at all. It's great hair, but it doesn't move at all. I really like that part is that while Johnny recognizes his own brokenness, he's also trying to make it better for the next one coming up, which is Squee. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about the art for a minute. I really liked the detailed sketch kind of style, but I will admit I had some instant nostalgia because of Invader Zim.
Oh, completely. I mean, it's the same just circular eyes that have very just rough sketch work going around them, not even acting as shading, but acting as a border.
Yeah, the very thin frames, the over emotive movements.
Oh, completely.
The aggressive emotion.
My favorite thing is whenever they get really angry, one eye gets really square and tiny. The
really
eye stays big.
Yeah. The hard lines, the exaggerated angles, a lot of these things.
It's something very prevalent in a lot of cartoons and comic books. Wearing glasses, you don't have pupils.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a solid
you see the
frame that you show.
You see the lens.
And it works great with silhouettes. And there's a lot of really great silhouette work in this. And he even makes a comment, silhouettes, so easy to draw, but look so awesome.
The way I want to describe it is it's horrific yet whimsical.
Yes.
You know, it's very graphic and unsettling, but there's also a lot of whimsy to it.
Right. It's like if Labyrinth had an R rating.
Yeah, exactly. Now...
And Tim Burton directed it.
Okay, now pacing.
And the entire,
just keep cutting me off. It's fine.
I will. The entire wardrobe was provided by Hot Topic and Spencer's. Fun fact, Spencer's owns Spirit?
The Halloween store?
Yeah, Spencer's own Spirit Halloween store.
The pop-ups?
Yeah. They make majority of their profit off of those 2 months in which the Spirit Halloween stores are up.
Well, that makes sense because I've been in a Spirit numerous times. I have purchased no things from Spencer's, not Spirit. I've been in a Spencer's very often as a child, never bought anything. Well, It was just funny as a preteen and a teenager to look at all the sex toys.
They personal massagers.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Personal massagers.
Davis says plenty. I'm just going to let Davis do that noise for a while and see how long it takes you guys to turn this off. No, we're not doing that.
Okay.
So, pacing.
Yes. Slow.
So, like I said, at first it seemed like a collection of short stories, but as it kept going on, you kind of saw callbacks and minor details slowly revealing a narrative to the story, which, for me personally, made it really hard to initially get into. But once I saw there was a story kind of going through it, I really wanted to find out where that story was going.
See, it reminds me of, again, a line from Family Guy talking about Dan Brown books. It's like, oh, the chapters are so short. You read a whole bunch of them. It feels like you're reading a lot. So it's just these really tiny, short, like each thing it definitely has a beginning and then an end. It even physically says
you could read each one on their own.
Vignettes. They're little vignettes that make this overarching story with kind of just tangential material in between.
Yeah. Basically, my thought though is if you can get through parts 1 and 2, then you're in. You want to find out what the story is, but parts 1 and 2 really don't reference each other very well. Yeah. Now, if you don't have anything else to add, let's go on to ratings.
I really don't have anything else to add on this one. If you do get the director's cut, it shows his original old, quote unquote, really old shit from high school, written on lined paper.
Where Johnny looks a lot more like Squee.
Yeah, he's more of it's Johnny the Little Homicidal Maniac, where he's a little kid.
He's more like Squee after dealing with the problems.
Yes.
Almost. So yeah, on to ratings.
Before you do, I'm going to actually come to the mic for this one. Davis, I do have kind of a quick question because it's kind of a unique opportunity.
All right.
You discovered this comic when you were like way younger. I mean,
Yeah.
you said found it like 7th grade or so.
Yeah.
So like, you talked a little bit about how you found it and how it appealed to you, but did it like really resonate in any level? Was there some sort of relation to it? Like, what was it? I mean, you being edgy as a kid? What do you think kind of made it stick with you?
Well, if you look at me right now, you'll see I really don't have a big edginess at times. But when this was just the kids that I hung out with in middle school, we weren't the Hot Topic kids. A couple of them, would shop there, and I started getting the black T-shirts from there and everything. But I never really delved too much into the whole goth subculture too much, or painting my face or whatnot. And as far as reading it, I don't know. I never really read the whole thing until I got out of high school. But I had the one comic of issue 6 where he's in heaven and then goes to hell.
Yeah, that's really gonna mess you up when you're a younger person dealing with religion, because we all do it at that
no,
time
I was devout Catholic at that point in time and stayed until after high school, but that's a different subject. That
is not something I expected.
Oh no, not at all. It's I know, right? I'm just a bucket of whimsy. But no, it was really just the Invader Zim connection that it was, and it was the one thing that me and about 4 or 5 other people in middle school / high school. It's like, no, like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. Like this is something that we like, we identify with. There's blood, there's violence, and they say fuck a lot, so it's got to be cool. So now, as far as overall affecting me as a person, no, I don't think so. I haven't killed anyone, so that's positive. Yeah. I do hang out with a dude named Johnny, though.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's he's Johnny G, but this is Johnny C. See, it's a big difference. Big difference.
Yeah, one extra movement of the pen. One line. Yeah, one line of the pen.
Which I'm just saying is C and a G. There's just a J tacked on to part.
Yeah, so given that, this for me, I knew Invader Zim, but I was not familiar with this. This was a name I had heard before, but just, oh yeah, he had once done a comic series called Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
Right.
And that was it. This is my first experience in reading it. That being said, moving on to ratings, for me personally, I'm going to give it a borrow.
Okay.
But I could see an argument for a buy. So let me explain. So for the borrow, as a Zim fan, it's definitely really cool to kind of see those relationships of the two,
and the early his early work as
and as a Hot Topic kid myself, back in late middle school, early high school, shopping at Hot Topic, having the sweatbands on your wrist that have Gur and a pink nautical star on them and things like, it definitely, there is some resonance of how I felt at that time in this book. So it's definitely a little nostalgia to it.
Exactly. It's a little like, oh, I remember this. Yeah, good times. I remember seeing this in Hot Topic every once in a while. Yeah.
So the way I'm going to phrase it is you should borrow it if you were a Zim fan and a millennial Hot Topic shopper when it was cool.
I was about to say pre-2010 shopping there.
And if you're going to buy it, Invader Zim was formative for you, and you were a millennial Hot Topic shopper after it stopped being cool.
Okay.
Because it's going to resonate a whole lot more with how you felt at the time. And it was really cool reading it because it drug up a lot of emotion and nostalgia from a time that I hadn't really dwelled on recently. Definitely.
Well, right. We're adults now.
My thoughts and opinions and experiences changed since then. But I was like, oh yeah, I remember feeling like that when I was a kid, and it was kind of a cool way to little nod back, like, hey, baby Mike, everything turned out all right.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm gonna go a very hard buy on this one.
Yeah.
Very hard buy.
Now, I remember you said you hadn't really read this.
Oh no,
in the last 10 years.
Oh yeah, no. When this was definitely one of those, like, I bought it and then I read it and then I put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
This is definitely like I've had this. This is from the 2006 printing of it, the 23rd, as we read earlier.
Yeah.
I like it. I really do. We barely skimmed over and touched on plot points this whole point in time, but
it's a very dense book. It really is.
There's a lot of words in this, and the overall, look at it. Just look at it, Greg. There's a lot of words.
It's very minimal art and a very maximal storytelling.
Yeah, and especially if you really love monologues and soliloquies, just get it. It's great. And plus the entire scene where he's talking to Senor Diablo in cheerleader form, and the overall self-realization that Johnny goes through in this whole thing. I'm not going to say even 10 years reading it down the line, whenever I read this thing again, that I was affected by it. I'm like, yeah, that's a different thing to think about. Yeah, that kind of what happened. I just read it again. I'm like, yeah, I remember these things, remember these thoughts and these feelings, these emotions, and I'm thinking about them differently than I did 10 years ago. But it's still no, you're the one that controls you. You are in charge of your own destiny. Take advantage of it from there. And people are garbage.
Yeah, they're still garbage. It's fun.
Yes, especially working from service industry, people are absolute just filth. I did say this from moral of the story: stupid people go to hell.
Yeah,
it's addressed in the book.
It is.
Stupid people go to hell.
Yeah.
That's it.
So don't be stupid.
Yeah, don't be stupid. You won't go to hell.
So anything else to add, Davis?
Along with this, I do not think Jonan is actually writing for it, but there is a current run, or at least at one point in time, there was a run of Invader Zim comics that are out right now.
Yeah, I do see it on the shelf at the shop.
Yeah, they're done by Oni Press, the same people that do the Rick and Morty comic now,
yes.
As well as I think they originally did Scott Pilgrim. I think Scott Pilgrim was on Oni. I'm not too sure. But it's a small label. Good stuff. and they have a couple of trades out right now. So if you want to keep up with, artist interpretations of Invader Zim, check it out as well.
I'm just checking to see what publisher that comic was on.
Ooh, the Invader Zim?
No, Scott Pilgrim.
I'm pretty sure Scott Pilgrim was Oni Press.
I just wanted to check. You're right, it is Oni Press. I'm
right.
sorry for doubting you, Davis.
It's okay.
I will continue to fact check you.
It's fine. It's fine.
So
standards, damn it.
Exactly.
Close
And
your
Greg
eyes,
wasn't
just
anywhere near his phone.
settle.
Greg is
your eyes,
watching
just
levels. I don't know what that
settle,
means.
settle.
He's just touching the little recorder thing. I don't know. Anyway, folks, we want to thank you for joining this little supplemental episode, this little extra. One of us clearly was not handling our podcast responsibilities, probably busy getting married or going on a vacation or someone died or something not important.
Just like missing a pop fly in baseball, someone dropped the ball.
Exactly. But thank you guys for joining us on this one. We'll be back next month with our regular programming. We'll have that
scheduled programming.
With that, thanks for joining us. I'm Mike.
And I'm Davis.
Have a good one.
Adios.